Hey guys, Frank here and welcome back to the New Vision channel. Here we are focused on learning and sharing sound principles and practical steps of starting and running thriving businesses. In this video, we are continuing the series on bookkeeping, and specifically, we are going to ask and answer the question, what does a bookkeeper do anyway? Perhaps you are a small business owner, say a real estate entrepreneur, and you have reached a point in your business where you need a little bit of help with the keeping of your books. And you want to know what to expect from your bookkeeper. Or you are an aspiring bookkeeper yourself and you want to know what it takes to do the job. Both of these questions will find some answers in this video. Before we get started, I want to stress that the context of this video is focused on small businesses, where the bookkeeping and accounting needs are relatively simple. Generally, the bigger a company is in terms of revenue and employees, the more complex their bookkeeping and accounting needs. And that context is not covered in this video. Okay, now that we have covered the context of the video, let's start by asking what the finance processes of a small business looks like. And by small business, I mean something like a small construction company, a convenience store, a family restaurant, and the like. At this level, we are focused on what needs to happen and not who is doing it. As we have covered in a previous video, the basic unit of financial activity in a business is called a transaction. For example, when someone walks into a restaurant, orders a meal, and proceeds to pay for it, that is a financial transaction. And that transaction must be appropriately recorded into the books of the restaurant business. The question is, how does this transaction flow into and through the books of the restaurant business? There are roughly 6 steps of actions that will carry this transaction into and through the books of the business. Firstly, there is an original record of the transaction, which can be something as simple as a printed receipt. Secondly, a collection of these transactions will then need to be organized for entry into the bookkeeping system. For example, this could be a collection of the restaurant receipts for a week or a month. Thirdly, someone has to actually enter the transaction into the bookkeeping system. That is, if they are not already there. Now, once entered, the 4th step of the finance process is that the transactions need to be properly categorized into the proper accounting buckets. The 5th step is reporting. After some time, one would need to generate a financial report that summarizes the state and performance of the business. And finally, at the 6th step, additional review and analysis might need to be done on these reports to advise the owners and managers on current and future decisions about running the business. In today's bookkeeping systems, these steps are not always independent. Sometimes, several of them are condensed into one operation. Now that we know what needs to be done, the question becomes, who does what? To answer that question, let us look at the typical members of the finance team of a small business. Usually, we have an owner or manager, then we have the bookkeeper, and finally, we have the accountant. Once again, and depending on the size and resources of the business, these functions can be done by one or more people. Going back to our 6 finance operations, let's start with the role of keeper of original records of the transaction. This function usually lies with the owners and managers of the business. They are the ones who would usually know the details of said transactions and will furnish this information to the bookkeeper. These transaction records can be physical receipts, bank and credit card statements, or they may even be a record of transactions in some bookkeeping software such as QuickBooks. The next role we will consider is that of the bookkeeper. The transaction records from the owner or manager are the inputs to the bookkeeping function. The bookkeeper's job then is to first organize these transactions for entry into the bookkeeping system. That is, in case they are not already in that system, such as QuickBooks or some other accounting software. Secondly, and assuming these records are not already in some accounting software, then the bookkeeper would have to enter this data into the bookkeeping system either manually or through some automated fashion. Thirdly, the bookkeeper will proceed to categorize these transactions into the proper accounting buckets and check for accuracy of the entries. Finally, after checking that the records are entered and categorized correctly, the bookkeeper can generate basic accounting reports such as profit and loss statements or balance sheet reports, which the owners and managers of the business can use to understand the state and performance of the business. The next role in the finance team is that of the accountant. The accountant often relies on the data and basic reports generated by the bookkeeper. However, he or she can perform further analysis and generate other more complex reports on the state and health of the business. In addition to performing deeper analysis and review of the business, the accountant can perform higher functions such as tax filing and also make advisory recommendations to the owners and managers. For example, the accountant can advise on tax strategies and investment decisions. With their specific knowledge of the tax code, the accountant can advise the restaurant owner, for example, on when to make the capital expenditure to acquire new kitchen equipment in order to get the maximum tax benefit. These are all beyond the typical role of the bookkeeper. This video is about bookkeeping function, and unlike the accounting function, which often requires specialized training and certification, the bookkeeping function also requires specialized training, but very often does not require any specific degree or certification. Therefore, the barriers to entry are relatively low. If you're a business owner, you can see why having a great bookkeeper can add tremendous value to your business and, quite frankly, to your life. And if you're an aspiring bookkeeper, you can see here that what it takes to do the job. In another video, we will talk about why the bookkeeping function could be a great full-time or a side job for you. Please let us know if you like this video by hitting the like button. You would be helping to tell our good friends at YouTube that they should share it with other people who might find it as beneficial as you did. Please also help the channel move further along by subscribing, and while you're at it, hit that notification button so that you will immediately know when we put out new content. Many thanks, and see you in the next video.